This was about to change everything. Hello, gorgeous! This channel is supposed to be about entertainment too. And Emily in Paris keeps me pretty entertained. So I thought it could be a good idea to watch some scenes together because it's a TV show about living abroad, am I right? So that's what this channel is about. Let's watch it. But first, I need to put this in my ears. Oh, she has a suitcase. What's going on?
What's going on?
I came to Paris because I was worried about you. But I was not planning to move here, especially not across the hall from your ex.
Oh no, pause. I once had an ex who was still crazy in love with his ex, and it wasn't really a happy relationship, as you can imagine. So, I can understand Sophie. I can feel you, girl. I can feel you.
So that's it. You're leaving.
Yeah, I'm going home.
Sophia, wait, can we discuss that?
You know, you could come with me if you want to Athens. Paris isn't the only place to raise a child.
That's true.
You know I can't do that.
Because of him. Because you can't live more than 2 blocks away from Gabrielle, let alone 2,000 miles.
You're not being fair.
Oh!
Si la vodka coule dans ton corps, tes
Camille,
larmes restent coincées.
you are an amazing woman. But I have a life in Athens. Let me know when you are ready to join me there.
Un peu là-bas, on peut toujours se retrouver. Et désolé si je vais me barrer, désolé je vais tout gâcher. Mais regarde-moi encore une fois, cette fois-là je me tierai pas. Désolé si je vais me barrer, désolé je vais tout gâcher. Mais regarde-moi encore une fois, cette fois-là je me tierai pas. Désolé.
Poor Camille.
Désolé.
That was so heartbreaking. Let me take this out. That was freaking heartbreaking. I can totally relate to Sophie. I can totally relate to Camille because it's just so heartbreaking experience which I've been through. And I'm a little nervous because my battery is about to die. So bear with me if this video will be interrupted. A reason why I was watching this specific scene with you is that I was also in international relationship. I'm Czech, I'm from the Czech Republic, and my then boyfriend, spoiler alert, we broke up this year. My then boyfriend is Turkish. He's from Turkey. We started dating in 2019 when we met on Tinder, and we have been texting for a while. Then I just decided to buy a flight ticket and go to Turkey to meet him in person. We really clicked. We had amazing first meeting. So I asked him if he would like to try a long distance relationship with me, and he said yes. Another month we met again in Turkey, Antalya this time, and we spent amazing weekend together. There were some red flags which I ignored. Now I can see them, but I can change that. Next month I was also visiting him in Turkey. I was still living in the Czech Republic. We met in Istanbul that time. He introduced me to some of his friends and I was totally crazy in love, but I was living in Prague. I'm back in Prague. I wouldn't say exactly sweet home because it's cold here, and I would like to come back to Istanbul. So I hope I can come back soon, as soon as possible. I was living in the Czech Republic, and he was living in Turkey, which is, you will see on the screen how many kilometers away or how many miles. It was horrible to be apart, to be such a distance from him. So I decided I want to move closer. I wanted to move to Turkey, but it's not so easy because I need visa to be in Turkey more than 90 days. In the 180 days, it's a little bit more difficult, but that's not what I want to talk about now. And I was really thinking like where I should move next because I already had my experience living abroad. For the first time, I was living abroad in the United States. I was living in New York. It was actually shorter experience than I planned because I was hoping to stay in the US for 2 years as an au pair, but it didn't go as I planned, as I imagined, and I was forced to come back to my home country just after 4.5 months. But that's not something I want to discuss in this video, so if you're interested in that story, comment below and maybe I will shoot a video about it. So I was back from United States, back in Czech Republic for, I think, 3/4 of the year, 9 months. And when I started dating this boyfriend, this Turkish boyfriend, I really wanted to move closer to him, and I was already sick of Czech Republic. I had reverse culture shock. Do you know what's reverse culture shock? I don't think it's so discussed. Everybody talks about culture shock, but not many people talk about reverse culture shock. That's kind of state of mind when you come back from abroad. You were living abroad for such a long time and suddenly you are back in your home country and you literally have culture shock because you were used to different culture abroad and suddenly the things from your home country are kind of weird to get used to again. So that's what I was going through. I was really sick of it. I wanted desperately get out. I was looking for a country where I could move. I knew it would be difficult for me to go to Turkey right away. And he didn't want me to go. I guess he felt under pressure because we were dating just a few months. I was trying to get him to the Czech Republic for a short time, but his visa application was also denied. So that's one problem, one major problem when you're dating somebody out of your country. And if you're from European country and you are dating someone outside of European country, it's even more up than that because there's visa issues and limited number of days when you can see each other, when you can be with each other, when you can hug each other. It's really, really freaking limited. So I decided to move to Greece because Greece is neighbor country of Turkey. I applied for a job. I got the job and I was so naive that I thought we will have times on weekend. On weekends I can travel to Turkey. But my work schedule was so crazy that I wasn't able to do that. My then boyfriend was able to visit me in Athens. Yeah, I lived in Athens like Sophie from Emily in Paris. That's kind of coincidence, funny. My then boyfriend was able to visit me once. And then, guess what? It was January/February 2020 when he visited me. He was supposed to visit me on Easter 2020. Problem one, the Turkish currency is super weak. So my boyfriend wasn't rich. He was doing okay in Turkey, but he wasn't rich. So that's not bad. Nothing against nothing. But he was making excuses that flight tickets are expensive. I was in his country 3 times. He visited me in Athens once. And suddenly, sorry babe, flight tickets are expensive. But I was crazy in love. So I bought flight ticket for him. But we all know what happened 2020. So Yes, pandemic. His flight got cancelled 1 week before he was supposed to visit me there. 1 freaking week. You got it? We both were really sad. I was really miserable from the situation. And then quarantine started. It was really crazy times. Long story short, I was really unhappy in this new job in Athens and I wasn't able to see my boyfriend. I decided to not prolong my contract. I just finished my contract. I lived there for 8.5 months, I think. It was 8.5 months approximately what I lived in Greece. And after that, I headed to Turkey to my boyfriend, then boyfriend, not boyfriend anymore. And I was finally able to spend some time with him in his home country and not to be forced to pack suitcase in 1 week again. After 1 year, 1 freaking year, we were doing long distance relationship. And after 1 year, I was finally able to go to Turkey and stay less than 90 days, which doesn't require a visa. So I stayed as long as I could. In 2020, I came back to the Czech Republic, back to Prague. I found another job because this girl needs to pay her bills and rent, etc. 2021, I quit my job again. At the spring, I came to Turkey for less than 90 days again. After that, I spent long summer in the Czech Republic. I was living with my mom then because I was jobless and I couldn't afford to pay the rent, so I was staying with my mom, which I paid some money after I started making again to compensate on the rent fee. But I didn't see my then boyfriend very long time. We were texting with each other, we were planning, scheduling calls, and we were trying to figure it out. So where can we meet? Because Turkish passport is really weak. He needs visa to almost every European country. And the country he doesn't need a visa, it's expensive to travel because it's not European Union, so flights are freaking expensive, so it wasn't the option. Only option we found was Ukraine. It was 2021 and we planned vacation to go to Ukraine. We went to Kiev as a tourist. And it was crazy experience actually. Like the war started 6 months after we visited. I was really devastated to read the news. But that's not the point of this video, so I rather would not comment on this. The point was we were able to see each other for 1 week in not his country, not my country, just country in the middle, which was affordable to go. So it was Ukraine for us. End of November 21, I went to Turkey and I was super excited about that because it was our first Christmas. It was supposed to be our first Christmas together. And I was double excited because it was my then boyfriend's first Christmas ever, because Turkey is a Muslim country, so they doesn't celebrate Christmas as we do in Europe and America and some other parts of the world. Different country, different tradition. So I really love Christmas. All in for Christmas, so I was super excited about it. It was a wonderful time. That wasn't on purpose. Wonderful time of the year. I need to hydrate. Let's continue. Beginning of 2022, we decided to apply for tourist visa. Actually, it was for me. I applied for tourist visa, which would allow me to stay in Turkey for 1 year. 1 year in one piece, which was something totally new for us because up until this point, beginning of 2022, it was always just less than 90 days together. It was still freaking long distance relationship, so this was about to change everything. And I was so lucky I got it. They gave me ikamet, which is a residency permit for 1 year for tourist purposes. And I did travel with my boyfriend a little bit, like there and there around, not so far. We were mostly traveling by car. We went also to Istanbul for a second time to my Turkish friend's wedding. Actually, that's also a funny story because when I was living in Athens, my roommate was Turkish and she's from Istanbul. So when she had a wedding in 2022, she was so kind to invite me and my Turkish boyfriend, not my boyfriend anymore, but we went to their wedding. And funny story because her husband told me they got married after 5 years, and that is like, I don't know, future telling or something. It's about like Turkish tradition, fortune telling. I don't know exact word in English actually, but he was telling me that they were together, they got married after 5 years, and there's a saying which says how long the Turkish new married couple is together. The couple who is attending their wedding will get married after the same time together, so after 5 years. So my boyfriend was quite cool. Yeah, more 5 years, that's fine. And the husband of my friend, he was like, yeah, it can be 5 months, 5 days, it depends on the person. And he was like, woo. But the irony of it, we break up after 5 years. Yeah. But 2022, it was actually our year. There were some hiccups. Something big happened in Istanbul, but I don't want to bring it up right now. I will definitely talk about it in future. But something happened there, and that was beginning of end for us. It was really beginning of end for us, but I was still crazy in love, and I really wanted to fight for this relationship, and I fought. I wanted to talk about problems, but it was only my efforts. When I bring it up, it was swept under the carpet, under the rug, and yeah, it was one red flag after another, and I decided to ignore them because I was still crazy in love. But with the time progressing, I was started to feel really unhappy in Turkey because we were living in the district which was just like panel house, panel house, panel house, panel house, panel house. Next to the panel house, no green, no tree. It was just like huge city, just beton and like kilometer, like radius of 5 kilometers or something. There was just beton, nothing else. So I was really unhappy from that because in Prague, in my flat, which I was living in Prague before, I had a really good view. I had a view for trees. I could see green every day, exception with winter, of course, because we have 4 seasons in the Czech Republic. But yeah, it was a lot of beton. And also, I was just spending time in our flat. My boyfriend was going to work. I was working from home. That's actually why I started to be entrepreneur in the first place. I became freelancer. I was working with language school, and then I started to teach Czech for foreigners just on my own. And this was actually the reason this gave me the kick which I needed to finally start my own business, which is slowly progressing. I'm currently working on a rebranding, but that's theme for another video. Yeah, so he was going to work, I was working from home, so I was spending most of my time trapped it between four walls, just walls. And he was my only social contact basically, because I didn't know the language. Everybody was speaking Turkish, which you can expect in Turkey, of course. But I wasn't expecting so many people not to speak English, so that was quite a shocker for me. And my battery is about to die again. See you soon. And I'm back after I charged my battery a little bit. Let's see how long it will last. As I was telling you, it was a real shocker for me that not so many people speak English in Turkey, especially the city where I was, Izmir. It's a very, very large city. It's, I believe, third biggest city in the Turkey. So it was really strange for me that not so many people spoke English. And even young people, closest friends of my then boyfriend, not so many of them were able to speak English with me, so they just spoke Turkish. And when we were hanging out together, my then boyfriend, and his friends, most of the time they were speaking Turkish and I couldn't understand anything. And you can handle that for few minutes, few hours, like 1, 2, 3 hours, that's fine. But once there was a case, we were unexpectedly hanging out with his friends because they found out they are just in the same neighborhood, and we ended up going in the pub, and we were there for 8 freaking long hours where everybody spoke Turkish. And I don't know if it's obvious, but I don't speak Turkish. I was learning. I must say, I was learning. I was using 2 apps, Babel and Mondly. You can actually find link to Mondly in the description. So check it out. It's a really useful app for beginners. I really like it. Not sponsored, by the way. I just really enjoyed it. But I wasn't able to learn Turkish because I learned some basics. I think my Turkish is like 3 years old toddler, maybe. I know so many random words, but I'm not able to speak in the sentences. So I was communicating with his family like in the words and smiles, gestures mostly. But yeah, it was sad that I wasn't able to speak with his friends and even with his family, like his closest family. They didn't speak English. And this was the part of the problem. It wasn't the main problem, main issue, but this is definitely something you need to consider. Like, I was discussing this subject with Petra, who was here on my show, the Lucia Colors of Heart show. I had an interview where we were talking about this because she's living with a foreigner. She is really happy. They're happily married, to my knowledge, right now at this moment when I'm shooting this video. So you can find this video right here. You can watch it after this. We spoke about it. It's not such a deal breaker, but I definitely wish that I put more effort into learning Turkish. That's one of my biggest regrets in this relationship, that I didn't put as much effort as I could. Because at some point I started to be really unhappy in Turkey and I decided this is not the country where I want to spend the rest of my life. And that was a deal breaker for me, that killed my motivation to learn. Because my then boyfriend, he was willing to move abroad with me. He wanted to move abroad, as he was telling me so many times in our relationship. So I just figured it's not really a priority right now for me to learn Turkish because we will eventually live in different country. So I had different priorities instead. which I was focusing on. Fall 2022 was started to be a little bit challenging, a little bit rocky, but I asked for extension of my visa and shocker, it was denied. I will not go into the details, but we knew this could happen. We knew it's 50-50 chance they will give it to me or they will not. And they didn't. But luckily we had like safe backup plan. We scheduled short 4 days vacation in Italy, in Rome. We left 1 day before expiration of my residence card. We came back from Italy 4 days later when I was able to use my less than 90 days again, which doesn't require a visa. So I used that and I was with my boyfriend till end of the March, which was 16 months in one piece, which was the longest period we ever spent together. It was quite challenging going back home. I was staying with my mom and we were discussing our plan, what we will do now. Over our phone calls and text, we were talking about it. And end of June/July, I came back to Turkey for 3 weeks and we came up with a plan that I spent some time in Turkey with him. So now is the time to turn the tables around and that I will try to get him to my country. So that was the plan. I was looking for a job in order to be able to do that because for some reason my country prefers employee over entrepreneurs. There seems to be more stable in the bureaucracy world. No idea why. So I was looking for a job so I could ask for partnership visa for my then boyfriend. Also, I visited him in August, end of August. So we spent 10 days together and I landed the job and I started to preparing the documents for his visa application and everything. I had it covered. We requested it. We were able to get it. If this interests you, I can also make another video about this subject, but that's not the point right now. He came to the Czech Republic half of January and we visited my family. Finally, I was able to introduce my family to him. That were really happy times. Like it was good time. But like 2 weeks later, when we moved to the studio apartment I found for us, because like he wasn't able to work from here. He had some savings, but he had to wait for his residency permit to be approved to be able to legally work here. So we were depending on my income and his savings. My income was super high at that point, and he had quite fine savings, but like we were living paycheck to paycheck and we were living in studio. I was working from home and he was home in the studio flat. It was challenging and some crackers started to appear more and more. After eventually it led to the breakup. The breakup, which was probably 2 years overdue, I would guess, since that Istanbul event I said I will mention in another video, not in this. So I left a lot of information out. I tried to describe my 5 years old relationship with foreigner as briefly as possible. The crackers were mainly because of his culture shock. He had really hard time adapting and he had hard time to share it with me, to tell me basically all this information about culture shock and difficulty for him. I found out during of our breakup, which was too late for repairs. So that's why I wanted to watch this scene from Emily in Paris with you, because it triggered a lot of memories for me and I can truly relate. Camille, like, it hurts. I know it hurts, and yeah, I had a really hard time in Turkey, and apparently my then boyfriend had a really hard time in the Czech Republic. So that's why this scene is so heartbreaking, because it's really important to discuss this and think about it, think it all through, because it's difficult. Like, his home is here, your home is here, your cultures are clashing, you grew up in different environment, you might have different values, and you don't always see this when you fall in love at the first sight. You will start unpacking this slowly over the time. And after that, it's really, really important to consider, does this worth my time? I'm grateful for this experience, but after 5 years, I came to conclusion. I wanted to say it wasn't meant to be, but I believe it was meant to be. It was supposed to happen to us. I know I learned a lot from this experience. My biggest takeaway is communication is the base of everything in the relationship. My biggest takeaway is not to be scared to talk about your feelings with your boyfriend, even if you are scared of the reaction, even if you are scared he might leave you. So be it. If you will share your truest feelings and he will want to leave you, he's not boyfriend for you. There's a better guy waiting for you. Someone who will appreciate you and you sharing your true feelings. So yeah, that was my experience. Also, did I mention long distance relationships are expensive? It requires a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money, because you need to fly from country to country, back and forth. Because like let me calculate it how much I spent for flight tickets over the 5 years, and I will put the number here. I have no idea by my memory how much money it was, so I need to calculate it. But I know I would be doing financially much better if I wasn't in 5 years long distance international relationship. But that was my choice. If my then boyfriend is watching this, I'm not blaming you for this, of course. And I tried to be as much respectful as I could, not to mention any sensitive details. This is my point of view. This is a very short and brief story, which I left a lot of details out because it's 5 freaking years of relationship, so I can make video just this long, so that's why it was so brief. It will be probably freaking long when I will start to edit it, but we will see. Anyway, if you have any additional questions, write me in the comments. And that was my experience. I wanted to share with you. If you also have an experience with international relationship, similar or completely different than mine, I will appreciate you sharing in the comments. And if you would like to see more scenes with Emily in Paris and watch it with me, with my personal experience attached to it, watch this video next.